Greetings, colleagues, and in particular, Professor M.T. Mohale, the Executive Dean of the College of Economic and Management Sciences, Professor Ari H. Hinson, the Vice Chancellor Academic, University of Kigali, ladies and gentlemen, family and friends of Professor Makhitha. My name is M.S. Mutata, the University Registrar, and I'm honored to welcome you to this significant and auspicious occasion for the University of South Africa to proudly acknowledge and congratulate, and indeed to demonstrate how grateful we are with the academic achievements of Professor Mercy Makhitha. It is therefore fitting that I formally welcome you first, Prof. Makhitha, and thank you for reaching the academic pinnacle and for making this congregation possible today. Congratulations on your achievements. As I said earlier, may I also take this opportunity once more to welcome your family who have accompanied you here today. We join them in their pride in you, but also wish to express our thanks for the support over the years. We really thank them for their support. Ladies and gentlemen, we are here to introduce Prof. Makhitha to the university community as well as to the wider community, where Prof's research focus area is deeply embedded. Reaching the pinnacle may sound like defining the end, but such definition would be far short of the truth. The pinnacle signifies the beginning of what I would characterize as the beginning and continuation of deep engagements with not only the academic and non-academic colleagues, but also with the greater community. Today will mark the milestone in the academic career of Professor Makhitha as a full professor and provide a platform to share her knowledge and research and to usher in new discoveries, ideas, deep insights, and provocative thinking to a diverse audience here and beyond the walls of this venue. For knowledge and the drive to share and implement it cannot be detained successfully within the confines of a venue or the physical perimeter of the university. Professor Makhitha is the living truth of the university's vision to become the African university shaping futures in the service of humanity. Through this research, she is inviting and welcoming us to spaces where we define tomorrow and in which we are continuously forging ahead. The topic this afternoon is consumer behavior of emerging market consumers in online shopping environment. We have all been forced to go online in many areas of our lives, with the COVID-19 pandemic turbocharging our erstwhile pedestrian pace towards the fourth industrial revolution. Gone are the days when we shopped with our eyes and hands, feeling more comfortable with selecting our wares after touching and feeling them. As we are aware, our students have moved on to online examinations as well. I therefore continue to welcome you and invite you to sit back and receive the pearls of wisdom and the prodding that will naturally follow, enjoying us to keep with the times and to continue striving towards being and remaining a step ahead of such rapidly changing times. Having said these few words, allow me to resist the temptation to attempt to deliver an unscheduled lecture, for mine is really to welcome you to this inaugural lecture. As I return to my seat, Professor M.T. Mohale, the Executive Dean, College of Economic and Management Sciences at UNISA, will take to the podium to formally introduce Prof. Makhitha. Prof. Mohale will then be followed by Professor Makhitha, and Professor Ari H. Hinson will then respond to the inaugural lecture. I will only return to this podium to guide the proceedings to a close. Prof. Mohale, can I now request you to introduce Prof. Makhitha? Thank you.
Vice Chancellor and Principal of the University of South Africa, Professor Puleng Lengabula, the Registrar, Professor Mutata, Deputy Executive Dean of the College of Economic and Management Sciences, Professor Prof, Director of Schools in the college, Professor Naidu, Professor Ngwenya, and Professor Mrauzi, and our chairs of departments. Others included here are those in leadership of various student formations within UNISA, the parents, as well as Professor Makhitha's relatives. Distinguished guests, I greet you today, and all protocols are observed. It gives me great pleasure to welcome you on this special day in which Professor Makhitha presents her inaugural lecture in recognition of her promotion to full professorial rank. And so this is a celebratory event that brings academics, that brings students, that brings the broader community into engagement to establish collaboration, strengthen existing relationship, as well as catching up with the alumni. The event represents a significant milestone in Professor Makhitha's career, celebrating as it does her promotion to the rank of full professorship. We look forward to hearing from Professor Makhitha, her career development, as well as achievements thus far, to also updating us on her current and future research plans as she introduces us to her field of marketing and retail management. Professor Makhitha is a professor and a former head of the Department Marketing and Retail Management at the University of South Africa. She was the chair of the Department of Marketing and Retail Management at UNISA from the 1st February 2015 to March 2021. As a chair of department, she led a team of 30 staff members. She also acted as the school director for a period of 6 months in 2019. During her tenure as the chair of department, she led the introduction of BCom honors in marketing management, MCom in marketing management, and also the revitalization of undergraduate program. She previously worked for the Vaal University of Technology as a senior lecturer for 5 years. When she left to join UNISA as the chair of department, at Vaal University of Technology, she acted as the head of department as and when the head of department was unavailable, and was a member of various faculty committees. She also lectured at the University of Johannesburg for a period of about 13 years, starting 1997 to October 2009. At UJ, she was also involved in various management committees at faculty level, work integrated learning committees, academic planning, and while at UJ, she was a program manager for a short learning program between 2003 and 2006. She established a community engagement project involving students to work with small and medium enterprises and assisting them with marketing of their businesses. She is an alumni of the University of Venda, BCom Business Economics, Wits University BCom Honors in Business Economics, University of Johannesburg MCom Business Management, and University of Pretoria PhD Marketing Management. Prof. Makhitha established the first industry advisory board for the department in 2015 and established the African Marketing Collaboration in 2016, which gathers marketing academics from South Africa, Africa, and beyond. The 2021 first online African marketing academic collaboration gathered academics from institutions in South Africa, Africa, and over 20 public and private institutions in South Africa, including India and the UK. She was responsible for sourcing funding from Brand SA to host the event at UNISA in 2017 and 2018. Her research focus area are consumer behavior in SSME marketing. She currently supervises M&D students, and have graduated 5 M&D students in those areas. She contributed 1 book chapter with the title Green Product Management, an Emerging Marketing Perspective in South Africa. A chapter contributed to a book, Green Marketing in Managing Markets. She has contributed over 15 book chapters in marketing prescribed books in South Africa. It is therefore my pleasure to welcome Professor Makhitha to the podium to deliver her inaugural lecture. Thank you.
Deputy Vice-Chancellor, Executive Dean of the College of Economic and Management Sciences, Deputy Executive Dean, School Directors, Chairs of Departments, colleagues, members of the African Marketing Academic Collaboration, family and friends, good evening. Thank you very much for your presence this evening in support of my inauguration as a full professor. This is indeed a blessed day for me and the Makhitha family, a day when my promotion to full professorship is celebrated. When I joined academia in the late 90s, little did I know that today I will be a full professor. All I knew was that academics conduct research, and I wanted to be one of those academics, like those professors back in the days. I am happy that today I am one of those professors. My topic for this presentation is consumer behavior of emerging market consumers in an online shopping environment. My presentation will cover the following topics: consumer behavior, its definition and description, consumer behavior in an online shopping environment, online shopping, internet adoption in South Africa, online shopping in South Africa, emerging market consumers in South Africa, why research on emerging market consumers, current research on emerging market consumers in South Africa, as well as the emerging market consumers and online shopping. And lastly, I'll cover also my future research plans on emerging market consumers and online shopping. Consumer behavior is a study of individuals, groups, or organizations and processes used to select and secure products, services, and experiences. It is the process whereby individuals decide whether to buy, what to buy, where to buy. This could be online or from a physical retail stores. How to buy. This could mean that they buy on cash or on cards. And from whom to purchase goods and services. That is, they can buy from any online shop, such as Takealot, Zando, or any other stores, online or physical stores. Consumer behavior occurs when making purchases and is influenced by certain factors, internal and external to consumers. Examples of internal factors are consumer motivation, such as hunger or desire to have the latest products in the market. Example of external factors can be family or friends, when someone buys something because friends have them or family advises so. Consumers go through various stages in the purchase process of products and services, both in online or physical store environment. Consumer behavior takes place both in online environment and traditional brick and mortar stores. It is important to understand how consumers behave in online environment so as to formulate appropriate marketing strategies targeted to online shoppers. Consumer behavior in an online shopping environment. Understanding consumer behavior requires an understanding of individuals' needs, motivations, and thought processes employed in selecting a product over another, and the frequency of purchasing various goods and services. Consumer behavior in online environment is different from consumer behavior in traditional brick and mortar retail stores. Thus, it is important to understand consumer behavior in an online shopping environment. The development in online technology affected traditional shopping behavior. Traditionally, consumers would visit the nearest shopping centers to purchase goods and services. However, the development in digital technology means that consumers can purchase such goods and services at the comfort of their own homes through online shopping. It is for these reasons why retail stores in South Africa operate both from physical stores as well as in online shopping mode. Growth in digital technology has had a significant impact on how consumers deliver superior value to their customers, with consumers demanding a convenient, fast, price-effective availability of product information and services when shopping, which can be made available online. Online shopping. Online shopping is a form of electronic commerce known as e-commerce or internet commerce, which refers to the buying and selling of goods and services using the internet, and the transfer of money and data to execute such transaction. It is a process customers undertake to purchase services or products over the internet. Purchases of products and services occurs via a computer or mobile phones through smartphones or tablets. The United Nations Conference on Trade and Development defined online shopping as the sale or purchase of goods or services conducted over computer networks by methods specifically designed for the purpose of receiving or placing orders. The goods and services are ordered by those methods, but the payment and the ultimate delivery of the goods and services do not have to be conducted online. While there are different modes of online shopping, my study will only focus on business-to-consumer e-commerce. There are different types of online retailers. The first one is the multi-channel retailers. This one merges brick-and-mortar traditional stores with online operations. For example, Woolworth online, Pick n Pay online, and Edgar's online. The second one is the omni-channel retailer. These are also known as the click-only.coms. These are online retailers that operate from the internet and sell goods and services directly to online shoppers with no physical stores. For example, Takealot, Zando, Superbalist, and many others. Online shopping cannot take place without consumers having access to internet. Therefore, the internet adoption in South Africa had over 38 million internet users in 2021. And this increased from 4.5% in 2020 to over 38 million in 2021. The internet penetration in South Africa is 64% as of 2021. The General Household Survey conducted in South Africa reported that at least one member in a household can access the internet at home, workplace, place of study, or internet cafe. Mobile devices remain the most common way in which to access the internet. This diagram here, it shows internet adoption in South Africa, that in 2008, it was less than 20%, but has grown to over 60% in 2021. The cost of data in South Africa is higher than for the sub-Saharan African nations, including Kenya, Nigeria, and Ghana. The Competition Commission in South Africa recommended that network service providers must reduce their data prices by 30 to 50% or face prosecution. The Communication and Digital Technology Minister, Stella Ndabeni-Abrahams, has agreed to ensure that 80% of South African population have access to internet by 2024. Ndabeni-Abrahams declared to reduce the current cost of data by 50%. This, of course, will have impact on internet access in South Africa. South Africa is ranked 31 in Africa for the price of 1 gigabyte of mobile data as per Competition Commission. The target is therefore to ensure that the country will be in the top 10 in Africa for the price of 1 gigabyte data pricing by 2024. Global online shopping. The market size for the global online shopping as of 2021 was 56 trillion rand. This is expected to reach over 100 trillion by 2022. Countries with the highest online sales as a percentage of total sales include the United Kingdom, China, Norway, Finland, and South Korea. Coming to Africa. Africa constitutes 2% of the global e-commerce market with 43% internet penetration rate. The online shopping users in Africa consisted of 281 million people with average growth rate of 12%. And this is expected to reach over 500 million users in 2025. The valuable sectors in online shopping is fashion, followed by electronics and media. Nigeria, Kenya, and South Africa account for almost half of e-commerce in Africa. Online shopping in South Africa. The market size for online shopping in South Africa is 30 billion rand. This market size increased 66% from 14 billion rand in 2018. Online shopping constitutes 0.1% of total retail in South Africa. Online shopping penetration is 47% currently in South Africa and is expected to reach 60% by 2022. Mobile penetration is 65% and growing. The top online retailers in South Africa are Takealot, Superbalist, Amazon, Woolworth, and others. More than 2/3 of internet users in South Africa access internet every day. By 2022, South Africa will have 25 million smartphone users, 19 million Facebook users. That is according to Accenture 2021. The online shopping adoption in South Africa has been rising due to the broad expansion of smartphones and mobile devices, including low prices of smartphones. Mobile e-commerce dominates the online shopping scene, with 96% of internet users accessing the web and social media from mobile phones. The different e-commerce product category in South Africa are data and airtime, which is the one mostly bought online by consumers in South Africa, followed by clothing and apparel, online entertainment, toys, hobby and DIY products, electronics and media, furniture and appliances, as well as groceries. There are many delivery channels in South Africa that support online shopping operations, such as Airlift Express, which focus mainly on grocery and pharmacy delivery. Checkers 60, this was downloaded 1.9 million times in less than 2 years since it was launched 2 years ago. Pick n Pay ASAP, Uber Eats, and Mr. Delivery. The online shopping in South Africa is expected to grow from 30 billion rand currently to more than 50 billion rand in the next 3 to 5 years. Social commerce. The global spread of social media have resulted in social commerce, which is the use of social interaction combined with transactional nature of e-commerce. Social commerce have led to new forms of shopping in collaborative online environments. Social media users make purchases directly from channels such as Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Social media contributed just over % of total e-commerce sales in South Africa recently. An investigation on South African internet users reported that when consumers buy online, their choices are influenced by social media. Active social media users increased by 13.6% from 22 million users in January 2020 to 25 million users in January 2021. This equates to almost 42% of South Africans who are using some form of social media. South African consumers are influenced by social media for their online purchases, either as an inspiration or reviews. This figure on social media usage in South African online shopping, it shows the different social media tools that are used in South Africa for online shopping purposes. For example, WhatsApp, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and many others. Smartphone and online shopping. Consumers are using smartphones compared to other mobile devices to shop online. Smartphones are the go-to technology for online shopping as consumers use a smartphone to pay bills, invoices online, as well as transferring money online. Smartphone users in South Africa were estimated at 24.5 million in the year 2021 and are projected to go up 26 million users by year 2023. The highest number of cell phone users worldwide fall in 18 to 29 years old group who make use of their cell phones and interact socially on social media platforms such as Facebook, Twitter, WhatsApp, LinkedIn, and others. The use of shopping apps in South Africa is also on the rise. 35% of South African consumers have shopping apps installed on their phones compared to 30% in 2019. Various payment methods in South Africa have facilitated online shopping, making it easier for consumers to shop online. For example, cash on delivery, use of cards, bank transfer, e-wallet, PayFlex, and the QR code systems. Payment innovation has removed barriers for consumers to transact online, allowing more people to participate in the growing digital economy. The most popular online payment methods in South Africa is card, followed by e-wallet and bank transfer. PayFlex, which is a revolutionary buy now, pay later solution, have reduced card abandonment rate by 30% among those customers who use PayFlex. And the QR codes payment use have also increased 178% in online shopping in South Africa. COVID-19 and online shopping. The COVID-19 pandemic has challenged and shifted consumer behavior towards online shopping in South Africa and globally. It has accelerated the shift towards a more digital world and triggered changes in online shopping behavior that are likely to have lasting effects. South Africa witnessed an immense increase in online shopping since 2020 due to COVID-19 legal restrictions, which forced consumers to transact online instead of visiting shopping malls. There was a shift in communication channels used in South Africa, with more increased use of digital media and data usage. Some traditional retail stores opened their first online operations during the COVID-19 pandemic period. For example, Fashion Express went online for the first time during the pandemic period. The adoption of alternative online channels increased, such as call and deliver channels, use of WhatsApp for placing orders, delivery channels such as Checker 60, Pick and Pay ASAP, contactless collection, click and collect services. Emerging market consumers. Emerging markets is a term that refers to economy that experiences considerable economic growth and possesses some but not all characteristics of a developed economy. Emerging markets are countries that are transitioning from developing phase to the developed phase. Africa is considered an emerging market among other countries such as China, India, Brazil, and many others. Emerging market consumers in sub-Saharan Africa consist of between 300 to 500 million consumers and is still growing. Emerging market consumers in South Africa refers to black middle-class consumers that have emerged since post-apartheid South Africa in 1994. The United Nations Conference on Trade and Development have categorized the different categories of middle class in emerging market. The first category is the floating class. The floating class consists of group of people with per capita consumption levels of between $2 and $4 per day. This is slightly above the developing world poverty line of $2 per person per day. The second category, which is the lower middle class, with per capita consumption level of between $4 and $10 per day. This group lives above the subsistence level and is able to save and consume non-essential goods. The third category, which is the upper middle class, with per capita consumption levels of between $10 and $20 per day. Individuals at the level of the floating class is only slightly above the developing world poverty line of $2 per person per day and remain largely vulnerable to slipping back in poverty in the event of any changes in the economy. The emerging market middle class consumers in South Africa. The middle class, also known as the consuming class, in emerging markets refers to socially and economically mobile consumers with considerable buying power that enables them to engage in discretionary consumption. It consists of those households occupying the space between the affluent and the poor and exist in every society. These are the group of consumers who live above the subsistence level and spend their disposable income and time to improve their quality of life. They hold steady employment and remain optimistic about the future and possess the skills needed in the job market. They are educated and earn a good salary. Emerging market consumers in South Africa. I'll cover their market size and growth, how they emerged, and the importance of this market. Since 2004, the number of black middle class with a tertiary qualification has grown by more than 5 million. In contrast to the black middle class, the white middle class has shrunk to 2.8 million adults in 2004 to 2.6 million adults lately. The South African middle class is defined by income as consumers with a monthly household income of between 7,000 and 40,000 rand per month. The South African Advertising Research Foundation used the LS Living Standard measure to define the middle class as consumers falling in the Living Standard measure category 5 to 8, with LSM, which is Living Standard measure, being a segmentation tool using criteria such as degree of urbanization, ownership of cars, major household utilities, and assets. The South African middle class is heterogeneous with diverse needs. The transition from apartheid to democracy generated a changing class structure in South Africa, resulting in the growth of black middle class, hereby referred to as emerging market middle class. The efforts of South African government to deal with the post-apartheid legacy challenges, such as addressing inequality between white and previously marginalized black citizens, resulted in emergence of black middle-class consumer segment, which is a major part of emerging market consumers. Black African households could not own land or homes in most major urban centers in South Africa under the apartheid government. The upward mobility of black or African people was an economic and social transformation since colonization. Consumption patterns of black people have changed dramatically since 1994. The emerging middle-class consumers created a knock-on effects, such as the growing spending power, a better education and trade workforce, more investment, and more job creation. This market is dynamic, aspirational, and has a huge appetite for goods and services. The emerging market consumer segment is considered to be the engine of the country, as it has a strong buying power which contributes to the country's tax revenue and the influx of new businesses to support this market. The emerging market consumers spend 4 billion rand annually, far more than the 323 billion spent by historically wealthier white middle class. The emerging market consumer is key source of private sector growth in Africa, which account for much of the effective demand for goods and services supplied by private sector entities. The spending power of this market segment is bolstered by wide availability of consumer credit, both from retail banks and retail chains. Why am I conducting research on emerging market consumers? This will cover aspects such as more focus on established middle-class consumers, calls for research on emerging market consumers, growth of the emerging market consumers, and that this market exhibits different consumer behavior, and the fact that the discretionary consumption of emerging market consumer is different, as well as their taste and preferences, which are different from other market segments. Although research has been conducted on the middle class in South Africa, the relevancy of research findings on emerging market segment is questionable, as the emerging market consumer is unique in terms of culture, shopping behavior, and lifestyle. Unsurprisingly, most studies of the middle class consumers in Africa have focused on market-driven consideration such as size of this class, income levels, and consumption patterns. Several calls for research on emerging market consumers have been made by various scholars, which is why my research project focused on this market segment. For example, Burgess and Steenkamp, 2006, Chef, Cavarsgil, and others have called for broadening of research on the emerging market consumers to identify opportunities existing in this market. The growing attention on African middle class has necessitated the need for this study on emerging market consumers in South Africa. This is because the emerging market class consumer segment is associated with skills, education, high disposable income, and is also regarded as the consuming segment. The emerging middle class is becoming an important factor in consumer market. As most of this growth of middle class was amongst the black population, it makes sense for marketing research to focus on this group. The group of consumers has different consumption patterns than the rest of the middle class, that is higher spending on durable consumer goods or residential property. The emerging market consumers possess discretionary consumption and have the spending power needed for business and economic growth. Discretionary consumption refers to expanded choices of consumer expenditure for purchases other than necessity. This includes purchases such as better housing, healthcare, education opportunities for children, retirement, recreation, and leisurely pursuits. Recent studies on emerging market consumers reported that they prioritize spending on housing, motor vehicles, education, luxury cars, travel, and dining. The initial research on consumer behavior of emerging market consumers focused on defining and describing the spending habits, their preferences compared to other consumer groups. Some studies on emerging market consumers have been criticized for perpetuating narrow stereotypes of the black middle class as conspicuous consumption with a taste for expensive cars, designer labels, and large houses, and a reputation as poor creditors. There's a handful of studies looking for digital consumer behavior on emerging middle class consumers in South Africa, especially online shopping behavior. The aim of this research is to provide more hypotheses on how emerging market consumers behave in an online shopping environment. Emerging market consumers and online shopping behavior. E-commerce has a high potential in Africa as the emerging middle class demand convenience and better price, quality, which drives local and international retailers to target them. In 2004, internet usage among emerging market consumers was merely 10%. This has grown to over 60% in 2021. The cell phone ownership also increased 36% in 2004 to over 90% in 2021, which exclude smartphone adoption. There's currently over 60% of people in the emerging market consumers with Facebook profile, and 76% of those log in once a day. Online retailing is set to increase among the emerging market consumers due to growing internet penetration, spread of mobile technology, improvement of payment and delivery infrastructure. Mobile commerce have high potential to drive online shopping in South Africa and Africa, where consumers shop online via mobile phone than through a computer. With over half of internet users in South Africa purchasing online, this is set to increase among emerging market consumers. Several studies on emerging market consumers in South Africa has been conducted. For example, Lapperman and others conducted various studies investigating the emerging middle class consumers and comparing them with the established market. Many other studies, as listed in these slides, have also focused on emerging market consumers in South Africa. However, their main focus was on consumer behavior and not in online shopping behavior. I've also conducted studies on emerging market in South Africa, and this includes the one that investigated emerging market consumers and their technology adoption model. And the findings of this study revealed that convenience, ease of use have influenced towards online shopping behavior of consumers as well as perceived usefulness. Emerging market consumers is another study that was also conducted to determine risk in online shopping environment. And the findings of this study was that financial risk, convenience risk, and security risk have impact towards emerging market consumer adoption of online shopping. The third study, which focused on emerging market consumer and luxury clothing, found that quality, materialism, and status are the reasons why emerging market consumer buy luxury clothing. And lastly, another study that focused on low-income consumers and smartphone purchase, which was a master's student study, found that price and family and friends are the reasons why low-income consumers from emerging market buy smartphones. My planned future studies on emerging market consumers in online shopping environment. I plan to conduct studies in addition to the existing studies that I have conducted on emerging market, and will focus on consumer engagement in online shopping, use of chatbots in e-commerce, cart abandonment, behavior of emerging market consumers, applying the online shopping adoption models in addition to the one that I've done on technology acceptance model among the emerging market consumers, augmented reality adoption among emerging market consumers, as well as adoption of online applications for loyalty programs. And this will be some of the studies that I'll be conducting on the emerging market consumers. Thank you.
Good day, colleagues, and welcome to this short presentation on Professor Makhitha's inaugural lecture. But let me start by acknowledging Professor Mutata, the University Registrar, who's here on behalf of the Vice Chancellor, Professor Muali, the Executive Dean of the College, and Professor Makhitha herself, who is our special auspicious guest of honor. Now, it's a particular pleasure to be here because in my 20 years in the academy, this is really the first time I'm performing this peculiar task. So I approach it with a lot of honor and privilege. I'm called Professor Robert Ebo Hinson. I'm a professor of marketing. I'm originally from Ghana, but today I'm speaking to you as acting Vice Chancellor of the University of Kigali. So I'm currently based in East Africa. Now, you've all listened to the particularly illuminating discussion around consumer behavior of emerging market consumers in online shopping environments, delivered by the erudite Professor Makhitha. Now, I find this topic very intriguing because of the core subject matter, consumer behavior. Now, I've been in the academy for nearly 2 decades, and I know subjects around brand management, marketing management, sports marketing, services marketing. But consumer behavior, by and large, is acknowledged as one of the really, really fundamental building blocks of the marketing discipline. So I'm very happy today to share some thoughts on Professor Makhitha's inaugural lecture, because it focuses on a particularly topical and central issue in the marketing discipline. Now, the lecture is entitled Consumer Behavior of Emerging Market Consumers in Online Shopping Environments. So let me start again by reiterating that from undergraduate to master's to PhD programs, consumer behavior is really, really important as a critical subdomain in marketing. I remember about 10, 12 years ago, I was in the University of North Texas in Denton, and I was there as a visiting scholar. And I remember having the privilege of sitting in a few marketing seminars for doctoral students. And I still remember, like yesterday, Professor Nancy Spears of UNT giving lectures in consumer behavior to doctoral students in a brilliant seminar format. And I remember buying a particular book at that time that focused on consumer behavior theories and the theories that undergird or underpin consumer behavior study across the world. Now, in the marketing discipline as well, Journal of Consumer Research and so on and so forth, all by and large deal with the expansion of knowledge in this consumer behavior domain. So things around customer satisfaction, value creation, building better societies, enhancing firm value. All these things have sort of their epistemological roots in consumer behavior. So I think by now, I should have established quite clearly the importance of consumer behavior to the marketing discipline. So I want to start by congratulating very deeply Professor Makhitha for deciding to situate her scholarship in this very, very important area. Now, in this lecture, Professor Makhitha herself explores consumer behavior of emerging market consumers in online shopping environments. And she avers, amongst other things, that consumers go through various stages in the purchase process of products and services, both in online and in brick and mortar formats. And then she avers further that to the extent that consumer behavior takes place in these digital formats, it's important to understand how consumers behave in online environments so that we can all formulate better marketing strategies to target these online shoppers and ensure that by the time we deliver service to them, whatever we are delivering to them is far in excess of any price they've paid to consume that service. And then ultimately, the consumers will be in a positive net situation. Now, this topic is also an important thesis to explore because as somebody who myself have been in this whole internet, e-commerce, e-business space for nearly 2 decades, I can conclude incontrovertibly that Africa still has a bit of brick and mortar in most business formats. However, with the advent of COVID-19, this whole issue of the contactless economy is now coming full force into play. So what is happening is a lot of businesses are learning to work in online environments, whether they like it or not. In fact, even from the academy, a lot of universities, for instance, have been compelled to come up with all sorts of digital learning management systems and sort of migrate teaching to digital and online formats. And this is all service delivery in online formats. So even for universities where we are basically domiciled, understanding how consumers are now purchasing and consuming services in digital formats is also very, very, very crucial. So theoretical investigations, empirical investigations into how consumers can be managed in online formats seems like a particularly critical discussion for the year 2022 and beyond. Now, Professor Makhitha again argues that growth in digital technology has had a significant impact on how companies deliver superior value to their consumers. And that in South Africa, for instance, 90% of all brick and mortar stores have some sort of online store as well. So she lists examples like Pick and Pay, like Woolworths, like Checkers, like Edgar's Online. And then she argues further that in the South African environment, mobile devices remain the most common way in which consumers access the internet, and smartphone users are estimated to be around 24.5 million in the year 2021. And then by 2023, they are projected to go up to about 26.3 million. Now, she also argues that online retailing is set to increase among emerging market consumers due to growing internet penetration, spread of mobile technology, improvement of payment and digital infrastructure. Now, she argues also that mobile commerce has high potential to drive online shopping in South Africa and in Africa, where consumers shop online via mobile phones than through computers. So with over half of internet users in South Africa purchasing online, they're set to increase among these emerging market consumers issues attendant to the digital consumption of goods and services. Now, let me say that the reality of the digital age and issues around social commerce, online retailing, and how these relate to a growing South African middle and consumer class is crucial to the extent that the middle class represents a group of consumers who live above the subsistence level and spend their disposable income and time to improve their quality of life. So what Professor Makhitha is saying, that these consumers, they are growing and they'll keep growing. And she's saying that, look, these people today are between 300 and 500 million consumers. Now, we've all heard about this phenomenon of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. And it's important to understand that we are talking about expansion in trade by African countries within Africa. So we are talking about removing infrastructural barriers. We are talking about creating a bigger market space for African producers of goods and services, and so on and so forth. Now, in the context of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, therefore, I believe it to be crucial for African retailers and businesses to better position themselves with information on how to harness the power of this emerging market class. Because you see, whether you like it or not, global behemoths like Amazon and so on and so forth are not going to go to sleep tomorrow. So it's important for African businesses to begin to understand that even with all the big policymaker promises of this AfTA thing and how to change the African dynamic and how it will spurn billions of dollars in trade, look, my simple contention is that business prosperity will not be guaranteed if African businesses don't quite understand how to leverage digital technology interfaces, and then with appropriate knowledge of marketing and consumer behavior context, position themselves such that when African consumers are buying online, they buy from African producers of goods and services. Now, this for me is one of the reasons why Professor Makhitha's inaugural is so crucial, because when you position it in the context of this new Africa Continental Free Trade Area, then what does it mean? It means there are lessons for policymakers. It means there are lessons for firm level actors. And therefore, policymakers need to work in a certain cohesive manner to continue to build the digital ecosystems we need to boost online shopping. And then at the firm level, African producers of goods and services also need to employ the appropriate marketing and technology talents and skills in order to be able to triumph in this online shopping game. Now, closely aligned to this issue of online shopping is also the increasingly burgeoning phenomenon of mobile money and mobile money consumption in Africa. Now, what the COVID-19 pandemic has done is that it has accelerated the attempts of a lot of Africa-based businesses to address the need for purchase without contact. So if you go to Kenya, M-Pesa, it's a big thing. In Ghana, issues around MTN mobile money is big. And so mobile money interventions are crucial to enhancing service delivery on the continent of Africa as well. Now, what it is that mobile money systems are also being increasingly integrated into online shopping routines in Africa. And I mean, some reports are suggesting that, look, there are 48 to 50 billion customers when it comes to mobile money consumption in Africa. So what I'm proposing is that as Professor Makhitha continues to do work in this area and extends the domains of knowledge in this area, issues around how mobile money systems can be integrated into online shopping systems to afford consumers more customer convenience will also be crucial in improving the retail experience in most African country contexts. So let me conclude by saying that Professor Makhitha really needs to be commended for choosing to situate her research journey in this important research area. But I also want to say that, look, as we move into the domains of artificial intelligence, issues of robotics, and all the new areas that technology and innovation is opening up, Professor Makhitha should also, well, Professor Makhitha and by extension the university, should also consider looking for grants and creating more and more avenues for doctoral students to be employed, even master students to also be employed, for a bigger army of researchers and scholars to build new masses of knowledge in this online shopping and consumer behavior area. So congratulations, Professor Makhitha. I know it's been a long, difficult journey, but you've made it, and I congratulate you no end. Keep pushing the boundaries of knowledge in this area, and like I keep telling you, my Palgrave series of marketing in emerging economies is always available to you. If any of your South African colleagues want to do edited volumes in this area, my doors are always open. Keep up the great work. Many congratulations to you and your university, and I pray that you keep pushing the boundaries in this area. Thank you so much for listening to this short commentary, and I wish everybody who listened nothing but the best in all your respective endeavors, and long live marketing on the continent of Africa. Thank you for listening. Bye-bye.
Professor Makhitha, congratulations and welcome to the Academy, Prof. We really appreciate your thought-provoking lecture around our now popular online shopping environment. And thanks to both Professors Mohale and Professor Hinson for your participation in this inaugural address. Professor Mohale for introducing Professor Makhitha, and Prof. Hinson for a wonderful and insightful response. I also wish to express my sincere thanks to Professor Makhitha for an exceptional lecture. And on behalf of the Council and the Senate of the University of South Africa, it is my honor to welcome Professor Mercy Makhitha to the Professoriate of the University, and congratulations again, Prof. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for honoring us with your presence on this occasion. We are very appreciative of this. We have now reached the end of our proceedings today, and thank you very much.